Did you know that for Aladdin, Disney and Robin Williams had a fallout because of the film? Robin Williams provided the voice for the genie at the lowest legal pay rate a studio can give an actor on the provisos that his voice was not used for merchandising, toys and such, and that the genie character not take up more than 25% of the space of a poster, ad, billboard, or trailer. When these wishes were not granted, he withdrew his support for Disney and the film. As a result, his name was not included in the Art of Aladdin book, which makes constant references to the voice of the genie, and he was not available for the direct-to-video sequel The Return of Jafar or the Aladdin TV show. In an attempt to get back on good terms with Williams, Walt Disney CEO Michael Eisner apologized to him with a peace offering of an original Pablo Picasso painting. Still angered and feeling betrayed by Disney, Williams would not accept the gift. It was not until Disney chairman Jeffrey Katzenberg was fired and replaced by Joe Roth that Williams made peace with Disney. Through Roth, a public apology was given. Promises to right wrongs were kept, and Williams was so touched that he returned to reprise his role as the genie for the second direct-to-video sequel, Aladdin and the King of Thieves. Did you know that for Die Hard, Alan Rickman nearly passed up the role of Hans Gruber, which ended up being his first film role? He had only arrived in Hollywood 2 days earlier and was appalled by the idea of his first role being the villain in an action film. To a degree, Rickman was right to be concerned considering his performance as Hans Gruber was so hailed that the actor had to struggle being typecast as a player of villains for much of his career. 2. The costume department had 17 undershirts in various stages of degradation on hand for Bruce Willis. 3. The scene where Bruce Willis and Alan Rickman meet up was unrehearsed to create a greater feeling of spontaneity between the two actors. 4. Bonnie Bedelia stated that the first thing she thinks of when someone mentions the movie is Alan Rickman. The two became friends and had lunch together every day while shooting the movie. She expressed how lovely and gentle Rickman was in real life. 5. Bruce Willis received a then unheard of $5 million fee, which was approved by Fox president Rupert Murdoch. 6. Much of the script was improvised due to the constant screenplay tweaks that were being made during filming. Did you know that for Armageddon, regarding the film's premise, Ben Affleck asked director Michael Bay, "Wouldn't it be easier for NASA to train astronauts how to drill rather than training drillers to be astronauts?" Bay told Affleck to shut up. The reasoning behind sending drillers rather than training astronauts is explained in the movie. 2. NASA shows this film during their management training program. New managers are given the task of trying to spot as many errors as possible. At least 168 have been found. 3. Bruce Willis has said that he did not care for Michael Bay's directing style, and he refuses to work with him again. 4. When asked why he did this film, Steve Buscemi replied, "I wanted a bigger house." 5. Steve Buscemi claimed that the role of Rockhound was pitched to him as a heroic geologist, which he eagerly accepted, wanting a change from the lowlifes as whom he had been typecast. He noted that after he had been cast in the role, Rockhound's sleazy characteristics were written into the script. 6. Billy Bob Thornton has admitted to doing this film for the money and often jokes about acting in it. He has, however, called it not that bad. Did you know that for Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the chocolate river was made from 150,000 gallons of water, real chocolate, and cream? The filmmakers had to change the formula for the chocolate river because, originally, the concoction they were using turned blood red. Because of the cream, the mixture began to spoil, and by the end of filming it smelled terrible. Michael Bollner, who played Augustus Gloop, later described it as dirty, stinky water. 2. The reactions of the actors and actresses in some scenes are spontaneous. In the scene where Wonka limps out of his factory to greet the golden ticket winners, everyone's reaction is genuine. When the children first enter the chocolate room and see the candy gardens, their reactions are genuine. When filming the tunnel scene, the actors' reactions to Wonka's singing were genuine. Peter Ostrom, Jack Albertson, and Denise Nickerson were all terrified and had thought Gene Wilder had gone into a psychotic meltdown. In the scene where Wonka is screaming at Charlie and Grandpa Joe, Ostrom's and Albertson's reactions are real. Wilder actually wanted to tell Ostrom beforehand, but director Mel Stewart advised strongly against it, so as not to ruin the illusion of surprise. Did you know for Scarface, in the scene where Tony is in the bathtub watching TV, he says to Manny, "Look at them pelicans fly." This line was what Al Pacino practiced with a language coach to get the Cuban accent right. 2. Steven Spielberg and De Palma had been friends since the two began making studio films in the mid-1970s, and they made a habit of visiting each other's sets. Spielberg was on hand for one of the days of shooting the Colombians' initial attack on Tony Montana's house at the end of the film, so De Palma let Spielberg direct the low-angle shot where the attackers first enter the house. 3. Al Pacino reportedly stated that Tony Montana was one of his favorites of all the characters he has played. 4. The international corporation set up by Saddam Hussein to launder money from his various enterprises was called Montana Management, after the Scarface main character. 5. A majority of the film was shot in Los Angeles, California, standing in for Miami, Florida. This was done because production would have been endangered by protests from angry Cuban Americans over the film's reported subject matter. Streets and buildings used for shooting were redressed by the art directors to have the feel of Miami. Did you know that for Reservoir Dogs, the budget wouldn't cover police assistance for traffic control? So in the scene where Steve Buscemi forces a woman out of her car and drives off in it, he could only do so when the traffic lights were green. 2. Mr. Blonde's Cadillac Coupe de Ville belonged to Michael Madsen because the budget wasn't big enough to rent a car for the character. This same car was also used in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood by Rick Dalton, played by Leonardo DiCaprio. 3. Michael Madsen says that Kirk Baltz asked to ride in his trunk to experience what it was really like. Madsen agreed, but decided as he went along that this was time for his own character development. So he drove down a long alley with potholes, and then a Taco Bell drive-thru before taking Baltz back to the parking lot and letting him out. 4. Mr. Blonde's real name is Vic Vega. This is the same surname as Vince, John Travolta, from Pulp Fiction. Tarantino has revealed that Vic and Vince are brothers. He also intended to do a prequel to both films called Double V Vega, which would star the Vega brothers, but Madsen and Travolta eventually got too old to reprise their roles, and Tarantino has since abandoned it. Did you know that for The Godfather Part 3, Al Pacino was offered $5 million to reprise his role as Michael, but Pacino wanted $7 million plus a percentage of the gross. Francis Ford Coppola refused. He threatened to rewrite the script by starting the story with Michael's funeral sequence instead of the film's introduction. Pacino agreed to the $5 million offer. 2. Al Pacino stated that he did not agree with the portrayal of Michael in the film. He didn't believe that Michael would ever feel regret or remorse for his actions, especially the murder of his brother. 3. Robert Duvall turned down the $1 million that the studio had offered to recreate his role of Tom Hagen. Duvall did not feel that his proposed salary was commensurate with what Al Pacino and Diane Keaton were getting. The character was subsequently written out. Duvall later defended his position, explaining that making money was the only reason to produce another Godfather movie after so many years. 4. Francis Ford Coppola once admitted that he was still unhappy over the final result because of lack of time to write the script. Did you know that for Men in Black 2, the original pug from Men in Black was used to play Frank again, but since the pug was now 7 years older, they used makeup to hide the gray fur around its nose? 2. Jay's line, "Actually, it came with a black dude, but he kept getting pulled over," was improvised by Will Smith. The producers liked it so much it even made the theatrical trailer. Barry Sonnenfeld, however, was not happy. It was played over and over in the month of June prior to the film's release, making the joke old and tired by the time people saw it in the movie. 3. In an interview with Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones, Smith said, "It was great working with Frank the Pug in the first film, but since we came back, he's been acting like an a-hole." Jones then said, "Yeah, Frank's had a bit of an identity crisis since the neutering." 4. Will Smith started filming this immediately after completing Ali. In the first few weeks, he had trouble fitting in the trademark black suits as he had put on so much muscle for the Michael Mann film. 5. Robert Downey Jr. and Keanu Reeves both auditioned for the role of Scrad and Charlie, along with Johnny Knoxville.